to my kings, queens, and in-betweens. I'm Valerie, and welcome to my channel, The Bookish Valkyrie. I just wanted to get this vlog rolling because I have been trying to start it for the last few days, and I keep not doing it because I get distracted, and then all of a sudden all of my light is gone. So my light is still disappearing, which is why I have, inside lights going as well, but I just wanted to do a quick update on what I've been reading recently and what I'm currently reading as we go into this vlog. So to start with, I went on a cruise to the Eastern Caribbean with my husband, and it was a great time, very relaxing. And so I'm gonna probably have some b-roll of that after this clip, along with the bookstore that I found on the US Virgin Island. And at that bookstore, I picked up Mirrored Heavens by Rebecca Roanhorse. So I officially have the whole trilogy in paperback. I'm super excited for that. My husband is listening to our audiobook copies of the trilogy, and when he's done, then I will probably be picking this up and finishing it. And since then, I have been reading a lot of paranormal romance and sports romances, and then in the last couple of weeks I've been getting more and more into the horror end of things. Like I read The House of Monstrous Women, which is a Filipino horror story, and it is based in Filipino folklore and magic systems. It is horrifying and wonderful, and I had a great time with it. It is sapphic and dark, and there's definite body horror, a lot of bugs. If you have a hard time with bugs and you want to read this, prepare yourself. There will be lots and lots and lots of bugs. It's looking at a lot of like familial relationships, friendships, and romance and power dynamics, along with the tug and pull of destiny versus free will, and traumas and expectations that are put on the new generations from the old. And honestly, it is a very layered horror story, and I absolutely loved it. I was creeped out, if not freaked out, the entire time I was reading it, and it was exactly what I was hoping for to get myself into the spooky season mood. And then I found out that this coming Saturday, Stephen Graham Jones is going to be doing a book signing and speaking at a horror event in West Valley, so in one of the suburbs of the Salt Lake Valley. And so obviously I have to go and get some books signed, and clearly that meant that I needed to hurry and read a bunch of Stephen Graham Jones books that I've been holding on to. And so here I am. I finished reading Mongrels a couple of days ago. I definitely would not give this as a horror recommendation for somebody who was looking to get scared. However, I would also not recommend this for somebody who is not already a fan of horror and is not comfortable with reading about some body horror things, because this is a book about werewolves, and towards the end there is definitely some horror / thriller moments, and because it's werewolves, there's definitely some body horror. You can't do werewolves without it, at least not properly. And it's following a family through their nomadic lifestyle, and it really is a family drama with a horror setting, but it's a really good story. I really enjoyed it. And then I started listening to The Only Good Indians yesterday. I have about an hour and a half left in this book, and I will definitely be finishing it tomorrow, if not tonight. I don't know, it depends on if I decide that I feel like doing an audiobook or reading with my eyeballs tonight. I don't know, but I'll let you know as soon as I do. So yeah, that is a current read. I also am reading Coffin Moon by Keith Rawson, but I am reading it with my husband on audiobook as I am driving him to and from work. I think we're on chapter 11 or 12, if I remember right. But either way, it is a very different experience than what I'm used to with horror. It's got a very pulled back perspective. So it is a first person POV. And so far we are mostly getting the perspective of Minor, who is the main character. He is a Vietnam vet. This is set in 1975, and he has been home for about a year and a half and sober and striving to pull himself and pull his life together enough to provide for his wife and the niece that they are now responsible for, because her mother is currently in prison for murder. And basically he's working at a bar that is owned by his in-laws, and then one day a couple of bikers come in and they start dealing drugs, and there is some confusion on his part about whether or not his mother-in-law has given them permission to do that. And basically, push comes to shove, the bikers are the thralls of a vampire, and now he has crossed the vampire, and in order to make him pay, the vampire brutally murders his wife and in-laws, leaving Minor and his niece Julia to grieve and rage and seek revenge. It is basically a vampire road trip is the phrase that I keep hearing when people talk about this. This is a very slow burn. It has a really slow start to it. When there is action, it is fast and harsh. I'm not sure how the rest of this is going yet, but the impression I'm starting to get is that things will progressively be picking up more and more as we go. There have just been a couple of biggest reveals that occurred. That's the most I can tell you without getting into spoilers. So yeah, I am slowly reading this, and I will give you some updates when I have them. And the other book that I am currently reading right now is my physical read, which is The Most Unusual Haunting of Edgar Lovejoy. It is a queer Halloween romance featuring a gay male protagonist and a trans-mask non-binary protagonist. The horror elements are actually a lot more horror than I was expecting from Roan Parrish, because Roan Parrish tends to be I don't know, a little bit more cozy, and those hallmarks are still there in the writing, in the story, in the characters' relationships with each other. But the title character, Edgar Lovejoy, is literally haunted. He sees dead people. His whole family does. And for each of them, it's a different experience. For him in particular, it's a horrifying experience. And I am currently a little past the halfway mark in this book. I am enjoying this. It's definitely a good palate cleanser to be reading in between all of the horrors and horror adjacent things that I have been reading lately. I also picked up the dual novella edition that just came out of Killer on the Road and The Babysitter Lives by Stephen Graham Jones to get signed at the event on Saturday. And I've read The Babysitter Lives and I loved it. It is super creepy. And then I have watched some reviews and discussions around Killer on the Road that has me really intrigued, and so I am excited to pick this up when I have a chance. However, before I get to this, because like I said, I'm probably gonna finish The Only Good Indians tonight or tomorrow morning, and the next book I pick up could be Killer on the Road, but I think it would be better if I pick up The Autumn Springs Retirement Home Massacre by Philip Fracassi, because he is the other author that is going to be speaking at the Horror Day event on Saturday. So I haven't really read anything from him since I am going to be seeing him as well at Horror Day. I thought it would be good to pick up his book and give it a read, or at least get started on reading it before the Horror Day event. So yeah, that is what I've been up to, and that is where I'm at in my current reads and the reads that I am looking at picking up in the near future. So I will check back in with you again sometime tomorrow. I am finally back home from my appointment up north. I did finish listening to The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones on my way home, but I was in the middle of the canyon when it ended, so I didn't have time to switch to my next book. Plus, I kind of wanted time to sit with this one before I moved on to the next. I can understand why so many people like this book out of all of his books the most. It is not my personal favorite Stephen Graham Jones book. That one definitely goes to The Angel of Indian Lake and really the whole Indian Lake trilogy. But this was a good one. It had a lot more action in it, and it's much more of a supernatural slasher than a lot of the books that I've read by him. There are bodies on the ground from the beginning. I went into this expecting there to be harm to animals, since the premise of the book is that these 4 Indian men are being haunted and now hunted because of a hunt that they went on 10 years ago. So basically they went hunting where they weren't supposed to, and after what happened on that hunt, they are now being hunted down for their actions on that day 10 years ago. The thing that I wasn't expecting so far as harm to animals went was the dogs. Multiple dogs are harmed and unalived within this book. So if that is a hard no for you, then I would absolutely make sure you know that about this book. I honestly don't know that I would have read it if I had known about the dog deaths. So yeah, absolutely be forewarned. It's not just game animals, it's not just elk that are harmed in this. That being said, it really is a very well executed horror novel. If it weren't for the dog deaths, I think I probably would rate this higher, but because of that, really the highest I could rate this is like a 3.75. Obviously, I rounded up on Goodreads to a 4, but I just couldn't make myself give this a solid 4 or 5 because of what happened to the dogs. I don't want to spoil anything, but there's definitely body horror, there is slasher horror, there is psychological horror. It definitely went a different way than I was expecting it to. I was really happy with the ending. I thought that the ending was very fitting. The final scene was really good and I very much enjoyed it. I enjoyed the style that the story was told in and the different perspectives that we got throughout it. The hardest perspective for me to listen to was definitely the second perspective. That one is definitely much more of a mindfuck than the rest of the book, although there is definitely more of that to be had throughout the rest of the book. I'm honestly kind of surprised at how much he managed to fit into such a thin book. It's just over 300 pages, and so the number of deaths that are in here and the gruesomeness of those deaths and the totality of the horror around those deaths are pretty tightly wound in this story. It still has that ambling feeling that a lot of Stephen Graham Jones's writing has, where there's definitely some very distinct storytelling happening, but it definitely has a tighter pacing and plot than some of his books have. So yeah, 3.75 for me. And I have not started the Autumn Springs Retirement Home Massacre yet, but I have decided that it is what I'm picking up next for my audiobook. I probably won't pick this up until tomorrow, just because I think I have had enough horror for the day. So I am going to go ahead and pick this up. I may finish it. It depends on how much my attention span is with it for reading with my eyes, but I am definitely interested in seeing where this continues from where I left it off last night. Won't really go into it because I don't want to give spoilers, but we have definitely hit an intriguing point, and the tension around will they make it or will they not is different than what I usually see in books, and honestly it feels a lot more realistic than what I see in most romances so far as what is keeping them from their HEA. So I'm really enjoying that change up from the usual, and I can't wait to see how this gets wrapped up. So that is it for right now, and I will check back in again with you later.
Reminiscing the good old days, remembering to forget all the bad ones. I remember when college seemed so important, but is it worth it? Been wondering what truly matters to me. I know for sure it's not a fancy degree. I'd like to do what I love, but what if I'm not good enough? Split personality, sometimes sour, sometimes sweet. An M. Night Shyamalan story called Everything's Peachy. Can we just skip straight to the plot twist, please? Life's all about balance, and real love takes practice.
Good morning.
Friday evening and the day has gotten away from me like it tends to. I did manage to finish reading The Most Unusual Haunting of Edgar Lovejoy by Roan Parrish. I didn't realize it until I was partway through, but this is actually set in the same world as The Holiday Trap, which is their Christmas novel from I think last year or the year before. It is set in New Orleans, and you get to revisit the women from The Holiday Trap. The Holiday Trap is a queer take on the movie The Holiday, where two main characters swap homes for the season and end up finding love in their holiday homes. So like I said, you get to revisit the women from that, and I'm pretty sure they are Edgar's employers. He makes deliveries of the hard lemonade that they make as like a second job. And so that's a nice little tidbit, and it definitely made me want to go back and revisit that book. I absolutely love that there is no third act breakup. There are definitely tensions and questions as to how they're going to make it, but there's never a question about whether or not they want to make it. And they do find their way. There is a fun little reveal around the last third of the book, and it's something that I'm hoping will continue into the next book. I hope there is a next book and that it follows the character that the reveal is about. And the ways that Edgar and Jamie both approach the challenges in their relationship and in their lives are great. I really love that Roan Parrish has them face their respective issues on their own and be there to support each other without fixing things for each other. I also appreciate that the fixes don't erase parts of them, they just adjust how they move through the world. I really, really love the sibling dynamics in this between Edgar and his siblings, and I like the way that things between Jamie and their sister wind up. So if you are a fan of sibling dynamics in your romances, there's definitely a lot of that. So anyway, I'm going to give this 5 stars. I really, really loved it, and I am excited to see what comes next from Roan Parrish. I have not managed to start the Autumn Springs Retirement Home Massacre, but I am going to start reading this book tonight just so I can at least have an idea of this author's writing before I see him at the event tomorrow. I really am hoping to enjoy this. This is a slasher featuring an older final girl than we usually get. Rose is in her 70s and she is living out her golden years at the Autumn Springs Retirement Home. At first, when one of her friends dies alone in her apartment, she's not too worried. People die, especially at their age, but then more and more people start dying, and Rose becomes suspicious and begins investigating their deaths with her best friend. I think the idea of an elderly final girl is fantastic, and I'm kind of hoping for an elderly killer. Just because I think that once people hit a certain age, we tend to forget that they are who they've always been and that they are capable. And I really think this could be a great book for me. I will update you as I go. Hello, it is Saturday and I am at the Day of Horror event in Salt Lake, and just kind of taking a break to eat and hydrate and get poked in the face by Shalice. I'm gonna go back and listen to Stephen Graham Jones do his talk, and yeah, so that's where we're at right now. I am 32% into the Autumn Springs retirement home massacre. 2 deaths have occurred, and we are starting to see all the different ways this story could go. It could be a straight up slasher with a human serial killer. It could be paranormal with a demon. There is talk of aliens. So I don't know. It's a good time so far. I'm having a great time trying to figure out what direction this is gonna go. If you enjoyed the Thursday Murder Club, admittedly, like I said, I'm only 32% in, but so far it's definitely got Thursday Murder Club vibes, but I am fairly certain that things are going to go much farther off the rails than that did. This is a horror, not a cozy, but the retirement home vibes with the murder mystery and the headstrong, nosy woman, protagonist is definitely very similar, and I'm having a great time with that. I have worked in a retirement home, and so far things are feeling very accurate to my experience spending time in a retirement home. And so yeah, I'm having a great time with it, and I will give you an update when I am farther into the book.
That's not about it. Like, correspondence to the world does not equal truth. What equals truth is how it resonates inside you, I think. And that's what I'm always looking for in what I write, is some little bell I can ring or something that makes it chime in people's hearts. That's what I want. That's what feels true to me.
Hello, it is Thursday, so it's been a few days, and I think my last update was Saturday when we were in the middle of the Day of Horror event that was being put on by the Utah Department of Humanities and the King's English. I genuinely don't remember what I said, so if I'm repeating something, maybe I'll cut it out if I can. If not, apologies. Either way, I had a great time. It was really great to meet all of the local horror authors that were there, and I had a great time talking to them. Their books all looked awesome. I found out about this event a little too late to be able to put any money aside to take and purchase books at the event, but I did make sure I got their business cards or stickers or signed up for their newsletters so that I can follow back up with them and pick up the books that I was interested in picking up. For instance, there was a comic book artist and author there whose stuff looked amazing. Apparently it's very comedy horror-esque. I really enjoyed our conversation with him. And then I talked to another couple of authors who write queer horror and paranormal romance, horror romance, that kind of thing. And that was awesome. And there was another guy there who wrote some religious horror, which sounded really fascinating to me. And so I will definitely be picking up some of his stuff. And I had a great time getting to listen to Philip Fracassi and Stephen Graham Jones talk about their books and their writing. And there was a breakout panel that I made it to that was really interesting, that was talking about the risks in being a horror writer or in reading horror. It was talking about what's risky about horror in general. And that was a really interesting conversation to listen to. Philip Fracassi's editor, or I think she's his editor, was the one who interviewed him. She was also on the panel for the breakout session about what's risky in horror. And so that was interesting to get her perspective of things. I'm always really fascinated with the back end of the literature business, like the business end of things, the editing end of things, the whole process that goes into making books happen has always been very fascinating to me. And then I got to get my book signed by Stephen Graham Jones and Philip Fracassi. I had probably too many books for Stephen Graham Jones to sign, but he had like a different color ink for each book and a different quote. And this one is probably my favorite. He said, "I believe in werewolves," obviously. And I don't know why, but that just really tickled me. And then in his Indian Lake books, he had a different thing that he said in each one, but he also put a stamp in there of a chainsaw. And that was awesome. He put that stamp in all three of these books, but he wrote something a little different in each one. So it's more like he's personalizing his signings for each book as opposed to personalizing them for you, and that makes sense because he knows the books. He doesn't really know you. And then, so like for this one, he said, "Stay out of the beanbag." For Buffalo Hunter, he had another stamp that is the Weasel Plume Protection Society, which I will be getting myself a t-shirt of this off of his friend's Etsy shop as soon as I have the opportunity. So that's fun. I think that's a great way that he adds a little extra something to his signings. And then I also got the Autumn Springs Retirement Home Massacre signed by Philip Fracassi. He was wonderful. Had a great little conversation with him, and his signing on here is fun. He drew a little knife in there and signed it, and that was a really good experience. I am still only about a quarter of the way into this, and I think I will probably end the vlog when I'm done reading this one. Hopefully soon. We'll see. Tomorrow is Halloween, so we're running out of October, but I don't know, maybe this will go into November. I went over to my friend Tony's Halloween party afterwards and had a good time, did a few readings for people. I don't know if I've mentioned it on this channel or not, but I do read tarot, and I tend to read tarot specifically at Tony's Halloween parties the most. Anyway, that was a good time. It was really good to catch up with some friends. I had a wonderful time. And then so far as where I am in the books that I'm reading, I am a little bit farther into Coffin Moon. Things have definitely taken a more monstrous turn. And that is really all I can say without giving away some spoilers, but definitely much more intrigued in this section of the story than I was in the very beginning. So things are definitely picking up in the horror end of it all. I'm really kind of fascinated by Keith Brosnan's writing because the way that he writes is in a much more distant voice than I usually prefer. It's much more storytelling style of voice as opposed to the more in your face, in the heads of these people kind of style. It's like the focus is pulled back a little bit, almost dreamlike, but it's not confusing. It's not soft around the edges. It's just the point of view is more removed. And typically I would expect that to not work for me, but the way that it is woven with this story, it actually just gives it a more eerie feeling. So it's a little bit less in your face horror and a lot more like of the quiet, eerie, creeping kind of horror feel to it. When you combine that with the body horror and the bloody scenes, it gives it an even creepier feel. And I'm really enjoying that. I'm getting something that's a little different than what I tend to experience with horror. And then, in the midst of all of this, I also picked up Blind Date with Werewolf by Patricia Briggs and finished it without talking about it at all on the vlog. But Patricia Briggs tends to be that kind of author for me where I just am sucked in from front cover to back. Like, I'm just gone for the day when I pick up Patricia Briggs. And this is technically a collection of short stories, but it's really more of a novel told in short stories. This actually features Asil, who is a very, very old werewolf, and he's been a side character in the background of several of the books throughout the Mercyverse, and he always steals the scene when he's there. As he would say, he is magnificent. And so it was really fun to get a whole book that's just about him. And basically, even though he is Muslim, he has a concerned friend who gave him who has gifted him a Christmas present of 5 blind dates, and he has been challenged to go on all 5 of these dates without killing anybody, without him or his date running screaming into the night. And so, as it is a game and presented as a challenge, Aisel takes up his anonymous concerned friend on this gift of 5 blind dates. And things get very interesting. Things are never going to go according to plan in any of these dates, and that is exactly what you're here for, or at least that's what I was there for. I had a fantastic time reading this, absolutely 5 stars. And if you haven't picked this one up, or you were unsure about whether or not you wanted to pick it up because it is a bit of a spin-off, I think it definitely contributes to the world, and it gives you a much deeper dive into Asil and his life and the new turn he is about to take. So I had a great time with this. Absolutely recommend it. And then I am a member in a few of the different bindery imprints out there. One of them is Left Unread, which is Michael Laborn's imprint. And so the very first book for the Left Unread imprint is out now, and this is my hard copy for being a member of this imprint, and I'm super excited to start reading it. I actually requested the audiobook from my library, and they just got it in, so I'm going to tandem read this. I may do that in this vlog, or I may do a separate vlog for it. I don't know. I haven't quite decided yet, but I'm very excited to be finally reading one of the books that I have been supporting. And then another imprint that I'm a part of is the Bozhos. I'm not really sure how I'm supposed to say it because I don't really follow this person. Like I came across her on Threads and then joined her imprint because I really liked what she was going for with her imprint. And anyhow, I joined her membership, and as part of that, she does a lot of book giveaways, and I happened to win a copy of House of Monstrous Women, and that came in the mail last night, and I'm really excited to have my hands on a physical copy of this, and it's definitely one of my favorite horrors of the year. Maybe my favorite horror of the year. I haven't quite decided, but it's definitely in the running for that. So very, very excited to have this Filipino sapphic horror that features family and shows women supporting women in horrible situations. I would love to meet this author sometime. And then I also received an e-arc of Fresh Meat from Stephanie Kazaus. I am pretty sure this one comes out tomorrow. I don't know that I'm actually going to manage to finish it by tomorrow, but so far I am enjoying it. So this is like a horror romance that is supposed to be like a mashup between Greek and Scream. And I think this is actually the first in a series of horror romances. Basically, we open up with our main character and her sorority sisters Hey, Editing Val here. I just wanted to pop in and let you know that as I read further into the opening of this book, I realized that the POV character was not the main character. She is present at this opening scene, but the opening POV is actually of the sacrificial Drew Barrymore character of this series. So just wanted to make sure I cleared that up, and we'll go back to the video. Doing a witchy like manifestation ceremony, and the I think she wasn't quite as specific in her wording as she maybe should have been, you know, along the lines of that careful what you wish for sort of thing. Um, she wishes to have her love be obsessed with her. And you can absolutely see how that can go wrong. First of all, the target of her love spell is clearly not impacted by this spell, so he must not be her love. And then on top of that, I know this is about to go into slasher territory, so maybe possibly the obsession and the love might actually end up being the killer. So I'm still pretty much in the beginning of the story, but this is supposed to be a sort of Greek row slasher romance. And I think that that sounds like a whole lot of fun. So yeah, that is everything that I have finished reading, everything that I'm currently reading. So that brings us up to date, and I will catch up with you again in a little bit. Hello. It is, oh, what is today? Today is Tuesday, the 4th. Happy voting day. Hope you voted. I have some updates to give you from this last weekend that I never got around to vlogging. So I did finish reading Coffin Moon by Keith Rawson. It has a very ambiguous ending. I'm not sure how I feel about it. Like, part of me is glad that it's ambiguous because if it had gone one way, I don't know how I would feel. If it had gone another, I still don't know how I would feel. So I guess ambiguous fits the story pretty well. It's very classic dude horror. not not to put any kind of judgment on it. It's just definitely a horror story that's told by a guy. I don't know how else to explain it. I mean, we still have a strong female main character, and she's well written. All of the women in this are well written, so hats off to Keith for that. It kept my attention throughout the entire story. The beginning of it is rather slow, like maybe the first quarter to a third is kind of slow, but as it picks up traction, it really gets going, and you definitely get a banger of an ending. It definitely earned a 5-star, but it's not necessarily something I think I'm going to be revisiting again anytime soon, although I may find myself craving something of this particular pacing somewhere down the road. I don't know. We'll see. And then I don't remember everything that I said about Blind Date with a Werewolf in my last update, but I really enjoyed this novel and short stories about Aesel. It was fantastic, and it gave me a craving for some more Mercyverse. And in particular, I found myself wanting to reread the most recent book, Winter Lost. So I am in the midst of that reread right now, enjoying that. And then I also picked up Control Freak, which is the third book in the Bro Code series by DJ Jameson. This one is about the eldest brother. He has touch aversion, and so it's definitely one of DJ Jameson's more trauma-filled books, although it still is maintaining the same tone as the rest of the books in the series and the rest of DJ's books in general. Honestly, this whole series is just a little bit harder hitting than the rest of DJ's books, and this one in particular is harder hitting than the first 2 books in the series. I'm about a little over 20% in to Control Freak, and it's definitely reading the way I expected it to. I expect also that it's going to have me in my feels fairly soon, but I'm expecting it. Definitely read your trigger warnings when it comes to this series and this book in particular. And then The last book I have an update for is the Autumn Springs Retirement Home Massacre. We are definitely getting well into the massacre of it all. I think we're probably about in the last 24 hours of this book, or at least before you get into the wrapping it up portion of the story. I think I'm something like 92% into this book, so again, really close to the end. Whenever I get around to finishing this book is when I will be wrapping up this vlog. So happy November, and I will check in again with you soon. Bye. Hello, it is Thursday. I've got a couple of updates for you, and then I'll be ending this vlog. Last night I finished reading Winter Lost, and it was fantastic. This is my first reread of this book. This is the most recent addition to the Mercedes Thompson series. It was really good to catch up with her and be reminded of where everything stands so far as the overarching story goes. I think that my favorite book is still Soul Taken, but this is definitely a fantastic runner-up to that, especially because while it follows all of the usual shenanigans and adventures that any Mercy Thompson book has, it also had one of my more preferred romance tropes in it, which is snowed in on a quest to save her brother from a curse. Mercy and Adam find themselves snowed in at a secluded lodge with multiple things that go bump in the night, multiple supernatural beings, and it's a great time. And then I just now finished reading the Autumn Springs Retirement Home Massacre. It takes a lot of different little journeys. This is something that could be considered supernatural horror or just a basic slasher with plausible deniability of the supernatural. I think the plausible deniability of a supernatural event is probably what the author was going for. Like, was the supernatural there or was it not? I personally prefer to think that the supernatural aspects were in fact what they were. This was a fantastic mashup of a slasher and a cozy whodunit along the lines of the Thursday Murder Club, but bloodier, more violent, and our killer is undeniably psychotic. So I had a great time with that. I will definitely be rereading this the next time. I'm not sure if I want a cozy mystery or a slasher, because I will be able to have both with this one. Absolutely 5 stars. Definitely going to have to start picking up some of his backlist books. I think that will do it for this vlog, so thank you for watching. Let me know down in the comments what your favorite genre mashups are, and if you aren't feeling chatty, leave me the old lady emoji down in the comments just to let me know you were here. And if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you next video.
Stars shining bright above me. Breezes seem to whisper sycamore tree. Dream a little dreamer.
Stephen Graham, that terribly, none of it is extra, I don't know what I'm trying to say. The day has gotten away with me like it does. Stop. It is, stop. Oh, don't you chuff at me. Oh, you. The whole, stop. Finished reading the, but I have finished reading the most unusual. Oh, books. I'm talking about books.
You should probably do that.
Yeah. Philip, and it was fun to listen to and meet Philip. And then I just now finished reading Retirement. And